Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with mugs, phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods including apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below. Hello Rovers fans, it's Ryan Hildred from Rovers Chat here, and it is match day and we're really delighted to be with you pre-match, this time not post-match, for a chat about all things Coventry City versus Blackburn Rovers. As you can see, I'm joined by two players making their repeat performances this week. Joe Harvey, how are you doing?
Not so bad, yourself?
I'm good, thank you mate. And Alex Lomax, how are you?
I'm good, Ryan.
Good stuff. And we have a debutant today, Jacob Ward, our own Barry Douglas, we hope. How are you doing, Jacob?
A bit sore from an incident that happened on Wednesday regarding a Dingles five-a-side team, but other than that, ready to go.
Well, I hope you stuck one in there, mate. So delighted to have you with us. So as usual, we have got the live stream going. Please hit us with your comments throughout this live stream. We will pick up your questions and comments throughout and ask any of us questions about the game or whatever. And before we do start, if you're not following the Rovers Chat Twitter account, Rovers_chat is our Twitter handle. And of course, please do give the YouTube video a subscribe and this video a like as well. So the team news is going to drop probably in about 8 minutes time, 10 minutes time. So what we thought we'd do first is just see how we'd set up the side after that Watford game and after the previous couple of negative results. The four of us have put together a predicted team and a suggested team, and we're just going to run through that a little bit if we can. I think we're largely all on the same page, so we're just going to ask each of us just to focus in on one player that we've put in there. So, Joe, I'm going to start with you.
Yep.
You've put in someone there, John Buckley, who instantly stands out to me. Do you want to just talk us through, why you've picked Buckley there?
Yeah, I think Bradley Johnson struggled in his last couple of games after getting the Player of the Month last month. He had a great start to the season, and I think a little bit of that energy might have gone. Really, really tight turnaround this week. Mowbray commented on it. They got back from London at 3 a.m. On Thursday morning, trained Thursday, but mainly just recovery. And then Friday afternoon, they're back on a coach to head down to Birmingham Stadium for the game today. So preparation for this one and recovery, not the best. And slightly older Johnson as well, and given form, I just think it's a good opportunity to give him a rest. So I think out of the options that are available, I think John Buckley's probably the most reliable. Yes, I think he struggled a little bit against Forest, but this is a massively different game, a game where we're probably going to have a bit more ball and on paper look better than the other team. So that's why I've gone for John Buckley there.
Yeah, and Rovers fans, you'll see, there are players in this side that we've all picked. I think we've all gone for Brereton, Armstrong and Elliott as the front three. So, if you agree with us, then, hit us some comments in there. And if you go for someone different, let us know. Why would you do that? So thanks, Joe. Jacob, we're going to come on to your side now. You've gone for someone slightly different in that central midfield area in Joe Rankin Costello. So can you just talk us through JRC there?
Well, I mean, Joe Rothwell was playing really, really well, obviously until he got COVID, so he's been forced out the side. I feel like I've kept Johnson in because the past couple of games he's obviously been with Evans, hasn't he? And I feel like that's obviously, they've been too similar. Evans isn't creative enough in that role. I think before the international break, we had Johnson, Holtby and Rothwell, didn't we? And I feel like Rankin Costello can play that role, get forward a bit more compared to Holtby and Johnson. And I feel like that's a lot more balanced midfield instead of chucking Tribal into the deep end almost. So I think we go with that. If Johnson has a poor game again today, I think Tribal gets into my team next game.
Yeah, and I actually brought Rankin Costello into my in my side as well. I think he's shown lots of little flashes in that kind of advanced area when he's been there, and I was just intrigued to see how he would do in a midfield three like that. So yeah, moving on to my side here, very similar to everyone else. Rankin Costello I've just spoken about, but Tom Tribal is someone who I would be given a chance to today. Joe's just referenced recovery time. I think Bradley Johnson might just need a bit of a rest. It's been quite intense, the schedule. He is the other side of 30 like myself. So a chance for Tom Tribal to come in and really pin that midfield and hopefully allow Holtby and Rankin Costello to get forward a bit more. So yeah, I went for Tom Tribal over Bradley Johnson. I think all of us have dropped Corey Evans. If we just bring up Alex's side, I don't think Alex had Corey Evans either. No. So Corey Evans' unanimous decision is out of the side. It's just a toss-up then between Tribal or Johnson. But I did like the look of Tribal when he came on Wednesday night. I think he looked neat and tidy, and he did naturally sit into that area and hopefully would allow players in that forward area to go and flourish. So the midfield looks like it might get a bit of changing for this game. So if we focus on defence then and Alex's side, again, I think we have all gone for Barry Douglas. So Alex, what's your thinking with Barry Douglas there?
I think with Barry Douglas, my main thoughts are his pedigree in the Championship. He has a record of 2 promotions with Wolves and Leeds, and particularly in the promotion with Wolves, he provided a lot of goal threat with his delivery into the box. And I think that's been something we've really lacked since probably Mulgrew and Downing are no longer in the side. I think Downing probably supplemented the loss of Mulgrew last season, but as Downing hasn't yet renewed his contract, I think we've really lacked that threat from set pieces. So I think that's one of the main reasons. I think another reason is purely because I like a fullback to either offer that the solidity in defence, which I think Nyambi does offer, that one-on-one defensive capability, or a bit more of a threat going forward. And I think Douglas offers that in comparison to Bell, who really hasn't shown that he can either do the defensive work one-on-one against his man or provide those consistent level of assists that's required to score the goals in this league if you want to compete at the top end.
And we've just got a comment from Stand and Stare, which I think backs up what most of us have been saying about Corey Evans and Bradley Johnson. Johnson and Evans off the boil recently. Douglas should be a starter, definitely. And then another comment from L. Scotty. Do you think Douglas will start? Alex, do you think Douglas is going to start? We're going to get that team news in a couple of minutes.
Do I think he'll start? Potentially not, because I think Mowbray has been eulogising about Amari Bell's performances so far this season. I don't know if I would echo that, but all of the indications I've been given are that Mowbray isn't concerned with Bell's performances. Now, you draw from that what you will, but I don't necessarily agree with that. But there you go. That's the manager's decision.
Sure. And then a comment from Ben Smith. Douglas is a must to fit, if fit. Set piece king and the crossing will give us more creativity. Jacob, is that something you think that Douglas will bring if he does start?
I mean, you just have to look at that Wolves season, don't you? The 15 assists and chipped in with a few goals as well. Like previously mentioned, we definitely have been missing someone on the set pieces. I know we had Downing last year, but even then, it weren't anything to the effect of Charlie Mulgrew, was it? If we can get a few goals from set pieces this season, that will definitely help us with a playoff push for sure. Something Bell can't offer and no one else can really offer in that side at the moment.
Sure. I was just desperately trying to check Twitter there to see if the team news has landed, but I don't think it has yet. So I think Dan's going to got the team news. So I think Dan is going to run it across the bottom for everyone. So this is going to be like Christmas Day, actually. I'm going to wait for it to scroll across that bottom rather than... Yeah, I'm going to wait.
I've seen it.
Okay, well, hopefully Dan's going to get it in there. Here we go. Kaminsky, Rankin Costello, Lenihan, Williams. Oh, we had Rankin Costello spelt in his Greek name there, I think. We'll wait for that to reappear. But So I think I saw there that Daniel Ayala hasn't made it, of course. Yeah, there we go. Rankin Costello, Lenihan, Williams, Douglas, Johnson, Tribal, Holtby, Brereton, Armstrong, Elliott. So Joe, first reactions to that team news?
I'm not shocked to see Evans dropped. I'm shocked to see Bell dropped. I'm not actually shocked to see Nyambe dropped. I think 2 of the goals at Watford, there was some big miscommunication with Nyambe and Holtby. And Mowbray's always been hot and cold on Ryan. So I like it. I think back to the Wickham game. We've got to treat this like the Wickham game. We're playing a League One side from last year, and Joe Rankin Costello started at right back. We won the game 5-0. So anybody too worried about Nyambe not playing, don't panic just yet, because I think there's clearly a history there with Rankin Costello providing much more going forward.
Yeah. Alex, just looking at that, I look at Bradley Johnson, who hasn't been the greatest the last couple of games, but he did get Player of the Month last month. Do you think Nyambe's someone that Mowbray thinks he can just drop in and out of the side, maybe just to suit others? I'm just looking at that. Rankin Costello's slotted in there. We all wanted Rankin Costello a bit further forward in that midfield 3. What's your thoughts?
I think I would always prefer Nyambe at right back. I think that's just a personal preference. But I think when you look at the squad and the players that he's picking from, it's not really realistic for him to go with Rankin Costello in that right wing position with the options we've got there and the options he does prefer there. So really the only way he can fit him into the team is at right back. And I think an unfortunate casualty of that is Ryan Nyambe. And I think, as George just alluded to before, Mowbray has been very hot and cold on him. And I think at times we saw that with David Raya as well. Kind of a bit of criticism in public, a bit of criticism in the local press. And I think that's always been a bit of a relationship with Mowbray and Nyambe, is how far can he push him and almost teach him a lesson. And I think it's not something I would do. It's not something that I prefer. I would have preferred to have Nyambe in the team today, but I think the only 2 wins we've had this season, Rankin Costello was playing at right back. And we won both games convincingly. So I don't think we can be too disheartened at that team, particularly as I think he's made a big decision at the left back that I didn't expect him to make. So
we've got a comment from L Kimberley 92 there. Both fullbacks changed, says a lot about the Watford performance. Fullbacks let us down. Jacob, are you surprised or a bit pleased to see both fullbacks changed?
Certainly pleased with the Bell change, most definitely. Hopefully Douglas can put in a solid performance today and we don't have to see Amari Bell again this season. Ryan Nyambe, I mean, I feel like he gives solid 6, 7, 8s every single game. I am surprised with that, but like mentioned, he has chopped and changed Ryan through the seasons. I mean, playing Elliot Bennett at right back over him, I thought that was very silly, to be honest. I would have rather had Rankin Costello in that midfield. I do wonder whether it's a bit unbalanced. I mean, we have been struggling with someone to drive with the ball in that midfield since we've lost Rothwell. And from what we've heard about Tribal, he's not exactly attacking, is he? He's more of a defensive mindset. So to be playing a Tribal next to Johnson is probably going to be a bit similar to Evans. I presume Tribal can probably pass the ball better than Evans from what we saw in that cameo appearance at Watford. But no, I do worry about that midfield a little bit.
Yeah. And Joe, just another comment we've got here from Lachlan Kearney. Does Dolan not deserve a start with his great performances so far? Where are you on Tyrese Dolan?
Yeah, it's a good question, that from Lockie. Yeah, tough one. And that's going to be the debate this year, isn't it? Dolan or Elliott? Because they both offer something a bit different. One's left-footed, one's right-footed. I really didn't like Dolan on the left against Watford. I don't think that works. I think he's at his best when he can get round the man and get a cross in straight away with his right foot. So yeah, I'm not surprised to see him on the bench, but some of his best performances has come as an impact sub. So I think it's a good role for him. He's still young and nowhere near as polished as Elliott, so he'll get his chances. So we'll see.
I'm sure. So we're just going to bring up the Coventry absentee list before the game, and we will just compare that to what the starting lineup ultimately is. Just as I bring up their lineup, there were 8 players who who were doubtful there. Tyler Walker is one who we knew was going to be out. We'll just bring up the Coventry side now, unless Joe or anyone, you have got it. How many of those are starting or have made it?
Let's get it up. Hang on. So Coventry team that we've got is Morosi in net, Michael Rose, Kyle McFadden, Liam Kelly, Jamie Allen, Callum O'Hare, Ben Sheaf, Dom Hyam, Ryan Giles, Sam McCallum, and Matty Godden. So have we any names there that are starting that we didn't expect to?
No, so pretty much all of those that were on that absentee list haven't made it. So I think Liam Kelly was the one that when we spoke to Simon yesterday, who Simon was, really happy with Liam Kelly for there. He's made it for them, so that's good. So I'm just going to, before we move on from the team news, I'm just going to see if there's any more comments from Ben Smith. Midfield does seem too defensive. I've been saying that JRC in centre mid brings the best balance. Alex, now you've seen that midfield. What's your thoughts?
I can understand the apprehension around the two more defensive midfielders. I think the biggest mistake Marbury made was playing Evans and Johnson the wrong way around. He almost had Evans further forward than Johnson, which seemed quite bizarre to me. I think Johnson does have those patches of very good form and then off form, as we've just seen with him getting player of the month. And I can recall one game last season away at Bristol City where we made 6 changes before the game. And I looked at the team sheet because I'd gone to the game and I almost walked out the ground when I saw the team. But he absolutely run the game. And I think he is capable of doing that. And so I would always keep Johnson in there because he's an experienced campaigner at this level. I think with Tribal, he did show in that brief cameo against Watford that he may have that bit extra attacking nous that maybe Evans doesn't have. And I think we'll just have to wait and see today how that works out. I think we can only maybe comment on the balance of that after the 90 minutes. Obviously, all three have never played together from the start of a match, so it's all very new. But I can understand the apprehension of maybe not having like a ball carrying field like Rothwell. I think we discussed that extensively, haven't we already? I can understand the apprehension to get JRC in the midfield, but equally, I don't think I've ever really seen him play in that central midfield. So it would be a bit of a gamble, I think, to hang our whole system operating at a level we want on him, playing in a position he's never played before.
Yeah, mine was more intrigue, really, just to see what Rankin Costello could do there. But Joe's done a great job of convincing me that Rankin Costello at right back is a good thing. So no, I think I'm satisfied enough with that side. Quite happy with that. So we're going to move on then. We'll just bring up the league table as it stands. And I must say that this is without the Watford and Bournemouth game, which is taking place at the moment, which I understand is currently 1-0 to Watford, which would push them up into second place. So Rovers finding themselves in a very familiar position around that mid-table area. 2 wins, 1 draw, 3 losses. Obviously, the last couple of results not been great for us with the 2 losses, and that was preceded by Cardiff 0-0 and Coventry, as we spoke about yesterday, on the other side. If you've not watched that, please give that a watch if you want. Coventry have had a pretty rough October, actually. They've played Brentford, Swansea and Bournemouth and picked up a draw in those 3 games and have got 1 win so far this season. And I think they're probably expecting that they are where they are. So we spoke a lot yesterday about Coventry's style and the fact that they like to keep the ball and might come for Rovers a little bit. So Joe's just going to talk us through 3 bits of data that he's been gathering on Rovers. The first image that we're going to bring up is from October 2019 to the present day. Joe, do you just want to talk us through these possession stats and how that correlates?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one, this. So as you mentioned, this is the 22nd of October 2019 to 22nd of October 2020. We've categorized into win, draw and loss here. All the dots represent a league game from then until now. So the bottom axis, of course, is possession from 30 to 70%. So we've got some huge outliers here. So down in the lost category, down at that 31% possession is Leeds United. Well, don't worry about it. We don't have to play them this year, and thank God. And nobody has to play them, and I'm really glad that they're away from this league. You know, they're going to finish in the top 10 in the Premier League, you know, and have they signed any players? One or two, but pretty much the same team, and they're going to finish in the top 10 in the Prem. So clearly they were just far beyond we could match that year. And then obviously we've got some high possession losses as well. Now, as you can see, the averages kind of go down. So the thesis is that the more possession we have, the less chance that we have of winning. Whether that's caused by possession or whether it's just a random correlation, we can't say for sure, and that's kind of up for your own interpretation. So our average possession when we lose is 53.2%. Our average possession when we draw is 51.1%, and our average possession when we win is 50%. So this season, I think we've got a little graphic on the last 4 games. This year, obviously, we've played just in the last 4 games: Watford, Forest, Cardiff, and Derby. So we've lost the last 2, where we've had significantly high possession. Cardiff, we had similar possession to Forest, and it was 0-0, didn't manage to get a goal. And then that Derby game, which isn't a huge outlier over the past year. When we have low possession, it doesn't necessarily mean that we score less goals. So we got 4 goals in that game. Our expected goals was 2.58, so we outscored what we were supposed to. And I think what that's a testament to is the type of chances that you create when you're playing on the counter. So that first goal at Derby, Rothwell gets his foot on the ball, drives from the centre of midfield, and it's 4v4 basically. It was Rothwell, Armstrong, Brereton, Dolan against 3 or 4 defenders, and one of them was Wayne Rooney, who's not got any legs anymore. So the expected goals and possession ratio is never a case of more possession means more chances. When we have a lot of ball, we struggle to create in that last third. So against Cardiff and Forest, I think we really struggled. Our XG of 0.6 against Forest is less than impressive. And if we average the kind of XG that we averaged in the Forest and the Cardiff games, we're looking at just about avoiding relegation. So we have to be better. Against Watford, as you can see, we should have got more goals. But I think, again, that's a testament to we had a lot of possession against Watford, and the types of chances that we created aren't the types of chances we put in the net. So Armstrong's left-footed effort from the edge of the box, it's not really the kind of chance that you want him on the end of. Perhaps the one where it was tipped onto the bar, he could have put away, and we had the penalty as well. So you could definitely say that the Watford game was just a case of being unlucky. But definitely, I would say that when we have less of the ball, we're definitely doing more, and that press is really nice to see. So the hope is that we can have less passive possession and more aggressive possession on the ball. And I think we've got one last graph to go through, which we'll get up in front of us as we can. And then this is the league average possession and goals. So this is going to before the Watford game when this was released. So as you can see, we're doing pretty well up there in the nice dark green category, scoring a lot of goals, having quite a nice amount of possession. And we can see Coventry, the team we're playing today, just down in the middle there, near Middlesbrough and Rotherham and Millwall there. So that's the kind of side we're facing. Anybody expecting this to be a game like Wycombe's perhaps being a little naive. I think Coventry are much more creative in attacking thirds. And despite their injuries, I think they have a little bit more tactical nous in the middle and final third. It's why they won League One and Wycombe went up just. So yeah, it should be an interesting game. And as you can see, some of the teams that are around them there who will play Middlesbrough today, I don't think people would be as confident. Yet Middlesbrough are actually scoring less goals and having similar amounts of possession. So it's a nice little graph to compare there. But to see us up there so nice and high with teams like Bristol City and Bournemouth and Brentford and Swansea and Norwich, it's definitely good to see. If anybody in the comments or on the panel has any questions about any of those graphs, feel free to throw them at me and we can go through some things.
So Coventry alone in that kind of top left quadrant, that's suggesting that they're quite clinical with their chances, aren't they? They're having, a lower amount of percentage compared to a lot, but they're getting some good shots away, good chances. So, yeah, as you say, we will underestimate them at our peril. I will get my words out. Joe, we've got one comment from Sam Wright. It was probably about 5 minutes ago. Do you think we lack a killer touch? Not sure on XG figure, but feel Armour alone could be on double figures. Notable chances against Watford and Cardiff, which could have got us more points.
Well, it's a great question, because XG in general is a difficult point. XG is calculated on what the statistical mathematical chances of you scoring based off, is it on your weak foot, your strong foot, is it a headed chance, how far from goal are you, is the goalkeeper in position? If we have a look at Adam Armstrong, I'll just get a few things up here in front of me. His expected goals for this season so far stands at 0.32 per game, and he's currently scoring at 0.36 per game. I think it would be harsh to say that Adam Armstrong hasn't got a killer touch, because he's outscoring what he's expected to score. And then as a team in general, our XG so far this season is 1.35, and we're scoring 1.58 per game. So I think, yes, perhaps we lack a killer touch if you're comparing us to top 6, top 2 teams, but in general, we're outscoring what the mathematicians think we should be, which is definitely a good thing, given that Brereton and Gallagher and Dolan and Elliott are yet to chip in with significant goal contribution.
Yeah. I'm just going to come to Alex and then Jacob. If we just bring up that graph again, which is the comparison with everyone else in the league. So, Alex, you've heard from Joe there, how Rovers have struggled when we've got more possession, and Coventry are there, a side which, compared to many, having less possession. You know, now you've heard from Joe, now you've seen these graphs, and probably Coventry are going to let us have the ball a little bit today. How does that make you feel?
It does make me feel nervous in some ways. That I think Joe hit on it perfectly when he talked about passive possession. And I think a lot of our stats are potentially skewed by the fact that I think particularly last season, and maybe going into this season as well, a lot of teams have come to Ewood and just tried to play in 2 banks of 4 and pack their own half of the pitch. And Rovers have just had a lot of sideways and backwards passing in front of the opposition. Nowhere near the goal, not creating any chances of not creating any high quality chances, which I think would explain the low XG values for the Cardiff and Forest games. I think and then you obviously contrast that to the 2 away games, where at Watford and Derby on the previous graphic, where we had an XG of nearly 3. So I think, from what I've seen and what Joe's just spoken about there, I think there is a big difference between playing at home and playing away from home. I think playing away from home, I think we've shown both in the Watford game but also in the Derby game that we can create chances regardless of the amount of possession we're having. I think it's more in the home games in particular where teams are repeatedly packing their own half of the pitch and we can't find an answer to that. So I think it'll be interesting today to see how much possession we do have and to see if we can create a similar level of chances that we did at Watford on Wednesday.
Yeah. And Jacob, Coventry have only won 1 game this season, and Rovers, need to avoid 3 defeats on the spin or whatever. Do you think Coventry might go for Rovers a little bit, see as a bit of a team that they can get a result against at home today, or do you think they're going to be towards that 40 to 45% possession that is suggested by this graph?
I know when you had you interviewed the Coventry fan last night, he was saying they like to have the ball, so I was quite surprised to see them in that quadrant of the graph there. Whether that's because the teams they've been facing, you mentioned they've been playing some big teams in the past few games, they've just dominated the ball, not let them play their game, whether that's down to that. But no, I think they'll definitely see at home that they can have us today. Obviously, we're in a bit of a poor bit of form at the moment. We obviously haven't won since that Derby game, what was before the international break. But I feel we should let Coventry play their game today, let them have the ball, if that is right, what the Coventry fan told you last night, and do what we do best, get them on the counter-attack, because Mobley must know that, obviously, when we have the ball, as the statistics show, we're just not putting our chances away. So I feel like we should have let them have the ball today, get them on the counter. That's what we're most clinical at. But like mentioned about whether we lack that killer instinct, I think we have to take into account that obviously 3 of Armstrong's goals came in that Wycombe game against a very poor Wycombe side, and it went down to 10 men as well. And also, I mean, we haven't obviously we've scored 1 goal, haven't we, since the Derby game? So I think, and obviously Derby were in very poor form when we played them as well. So I think we're going to have to see today, and then we can maybe come back to that later, whether we do have that killer instinct or not.
Yeah. We've got plenty of comments in the chat box, which I'm going to come on to in a moment. And Joe, I've got a specific question from Andy Watson, which we will ask you in a moment as well. But certainly, Joe, you found a website, a Coventry website that's got a few quotes from some of the Coventry fans. And I say this with, the greatest respect. So a few comments. Their squad isn't great, to be honest. Would say they've performed about right. Feeling quite confident, 2-1 win. Play like we did on Tuesday and we win. Think we're going to do them today. I've woke up with that feeling, 2-1, come on. They had 20 shots against Watford. I worry about us today, but I can also see us beating them. I do get the sense that Rovers are that type of side, and we all know it as well when we've seen it, that if you need a result, if you've not won in a few games, we're the type of side that teams fancy us against. Alex, do you agree with that? Can you see why Coventry fans might be confident going into today's game?
I can see why they would be confident when they look at the Watford game and the fact that we, in some ways, I could, you should say that we played quite well and we created, numerous chances and we couldn't put them away. I think they're expecting a team to come to their ground today, or Birmingham's ground, should I say, and try and beat them at their own game. And I think they relish that. I think they'll quite like the fact that a Rovers side will probably come to St Andrews today and try and attack them and leave space at the back. And I think they'll be thinking that even if Rovers do have a lot of possession and create a lot of chances, that we may not even take those chances. And looking at the game on Wednesday, we may make a mistake or two at the back and give them 1 or 2 goals and for them to hang on to. So I can see why they're confident. I think part of that also comes with the history between Tony Mowbray and Mark Venus with Coventry and the particular circumstances surrounding their relegation from League One into League Two, and a lot of the ownership difficulties that were brought to the fore at that particular time. So I can maybe see why that might have clouded their judgment slightly. But I don't really see why Coventry should be worried about playing us. I don't think, ultimately the league table speaks for itself. We've had 2 very good wins against teams that are struggling very much at the bottom. And other than that, we've really struggled to pick up points. So at home, I think they will fancy the chances, and rightly so.
Great. And Joe, the comment from Andy Watson, who's one of our own at Rovers Chat. Have you thought about game state with possession / XG? So if you just describe what Andy's getting to there and just talk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, people get frustrated, don't they? I mean, I did the BRFCS pod. The recent episode's come out, 137. People should check that out. Great podcast down there as well. And obviously, a lot of the people on the forums, some of our older heads in the Blackburn community, are massively against, well, not against, but big skeptics of new wave data analysis in football. Obviously, myself and Andy host the Stats Show and Rovers Chat, so it's something we're both quite passionate about, even though we often disagree on certain things. But when you look at football from an analytical perspective, you have to bring in context. So, for example, this week I've spent a lot of time on the Rovers Analytics channel talking about possession and expected goals, and the question really is there a correlation or a causation between possession and the chances that you're creating? And in some ways, it's kind of impossible to prove what came first, the chicken or the egg, really. because you might be having possession because you're creating better chances, and you might be creating better chances because you've got less possession or whatever it is. So yeah, it's a difficult one. Everything has to be taken in context. So, like, for example, Coventry's XG this season is 1.14 and their XG against is 1.22. So you would expect them to have conceded more goals than they've scored, but actually they've scored 1.3 per game and conceded 1. And then you say, oh, right, well, they're outscoring, so they must be pretty lethal up front. But then you look at the goals they've actually scored and you think, okay, they're not that lethal up front. And today they haven't got their star striker. He's out injured, Tyler Walker. So, yeah, data has to be provided in context, and we try and touch on that whenever we talk about it too much, because it's so easy to present fact to prove a point rather than the other way around. Anyone can use facts, can't they?
Indeed. And we just wanted to give all the Rovers fans today a little snapshot of what you and Andy have been up to on the Rovers Chat site and with your Rovers analytics, Joe. So if any of what Joe has spoken about interests any of you, please do watch the stats show that Andy does. Give Joe a follow, Rovers Analytics. They do some really good stuff with that. So we're just going to move on then. We'll move on to just comments that we've had from fans throughout the show. And all of you watching now, please do put your predictions for the game in the chat box. We'll run through them as we get to the end of this video. And of course, the four of us will give a prediction as well. So I'm just going to visit the comments that we've had from people and see what we have had. So going back up. So right up here, Lachlan Kearney, once Stack and Rothwell are back, where does that leave Davenport for a role in that midfield? Is it time he moved on after a few years of no real involvement in our side? So Jacob, I'll come to you on this one. Yeah, I must say Davenport just really appears to be nowhere at the moment. What's your thoughts on that question?
I definitely thought when we brought Tribal in, it was either time to sell Davenport or let him go on loan. I mean, that our midfield now has so much depth. I just can't see him getting a look in all season now at all. I mean, has he even made an appearance this season? I'm not sure.
I don't think he has. No.
No. So I know he was. I know he was playing in the friendlies before the start of the season. And he made some appearances towards the end of last season. I mean, I would rather have him in the team over Corey Evans, but other than that, I don't think he gets him. I don't think he gets anywhere near the squad. I mean, but he's still young. I know he had that bad injury, didn't he, that put him out for a while. But no, I think maybe a loan in January, and if he doesn't go out on loan, maybe sell him next summer.
Yeah. And Joe, we've had a comment from L Scotty 2706. Do you think Holtby could play the Rothwell role today?
No, I don't think he will, and I don't think he could. It's not what he does. It's not what he does best. It's not what he's done. I really can't see it, and I don't think he'd thrive in that role either. Holtby has looked good in a deep anchor role. He's looked good in a kind of right-sided, cutting in, Tom Kearney-esque role recently as well. I don't think he works in an advanced role. I mean, he played in the DAC role at Sheffield Wednesday away and got a couple of goals, but we were exceptionally good that day and we got a bit of luck with the red card. So, yeah, I can't see Holtby playing in that role today. I think what we're more likely to see is quite a conservative midfield three, where either Johnson or Holtby anchors in. And what you'll see is Johnson will become a third centre-back in the middle. You'll have Williams with his left foot slightly wide, and then Nyambe slightly wide. And you'll see Rankin, Costello and Douglas nice and high up the field, past that midfield three, whipping balls into the box for your three forwards. So, yeah, I think Holtby will be much more there as a rotator, bringing the ball and spreading it left for Douglas or spreading it right for Rankin, Costello. Probably not as advanced as perhaps El Scotty might think he might be today.
Yeah. And Alex, on the post-match reaction stream that we did for the Watford game, we spoke about, in particular, that first half where down the left-hand side, you know, Amari Bell and Daniel Ayala, there was a few gaps. Stand and Stare has made the comment here. Williams back in gives me a bit more confidence. He calms Lenihan a bit. How are you feeling about having Derek Williams in today?
I think it would have been a massive debate had Williams not had to stay in Ireland for 10 days about whether Ayala would be brought into the team or not, because I do believe that, if I'm being completely honest, I think Williams has been our best defender this season. And I think whenever Lenihan and Williams have played together, I think back to, I think it was the whole game way back at the start of last season, and they looked extremely solid then. But I think circumstances have just got in the way. Obviously, Tosin came in last season and had an exceptional run there. And so they've never really had an awful lot of time playing together. But they've always shown when they have played together that I think they do definitely have the makings of a good partnership. I think they complement each other very well. And I know some fans obviously like that left-footed centre-half as well, rather than having two right-footed centre-halves, as you do with Lenihan and Ayala. And I think one thing that we picked up on as well after the Watford game was there seemed to be a bit of confusion around which side Lenihan and Ayala were playing on, that they'd changed from the previous game. And I think anything that makes Mowbray less likely to tinker is a good thing for me, because I think Mowbray can sometimes fall into the trap of maybe trying to fiddle around with it a bit too much. I think if you have Williams there on that left side, it doesn't, it takes away that kind of option for him. So that's definitely a good thing. So yeah, I'm not worried at all about Williams playing. Like I say, he's played in the games we've won this season. So I have absolutely no worries about Williams.
Great. Ronan G. Hart, come on Rovers, hello from Dublin. Thanks for listening in, Ronan. Really great to have you all the way from Ireland, and I hope you're doing well with the lockdown and everything going on there. Jacob, I'm going to come to you. Comment from Michael Pearson. Pretty much a must-win. Do you agree?
I think it's a definite win today. Has to be. You look, I mean, it was 8 players, weren't it, out? And I'm not sure whether they're all first teamers or in and around the first team, but that in itself makes it a must win. Obviously, we've had 1 point out of the last 3. If we lose again today, I think serious questions are going to start being asked of Mowbray, and obviously fans are going to start getting on his back. So it's got to be a win today. And I mean, a good point was made in the interview with the Coventry lad. They've obviously not had any football really for the past 6-7 months, up until obviously they started playing friendlies. So, it's good that we're having this promoted League One side so early before they start to hit maybe a bit more form later in the season when they've played more games together. So no, I think it has to be a win today. Get a win, and then we go into Tuesday's game.
Yeah. Keep those comments coming in, everyone, if you've got any other questions, and please hit us with your score predictions as well, so we can get a feel for where you're standing on that. Joe, I'm going to come back to you again. Andy Watson, do you think we have the personnel to play the quick 1-2s required to play through defences?
If everybody's fit, yeah, definitely. Dak, Rothwell, Buckley. I don't know about today. I think I like Elliott, but let's wait and see. He's played 1 game. So, let's see how he does against a different style of opposition today. Coventry, whilst perhaps more attacking than Wickham, it's a League One outfit with players that will, kick him, properly. So let's see. I don't know about today, but in general, I think the squad, the personnel, yeah. And I think once Dak returns, when we get to a period where everybody's back, I mean, a team with Travis, Tribal, Holtby, Dak, Rothwell, Armstrong, Brereton, Elliott, Dolan. Oh, I mean, if I'd have told you 2 years ago we'd have a team like that, I think everyone would have just been really excited. So, yeah, I think we do.
Great. And we've had a comment from Alex BRFC. How long before Armstrong is given a rest? Changes if he scores today, of course, but I'd argue he's been the poorest of the front 3 recently and hasn't been as clinical as anyone we would have hoped. Alex, where are you on that? What's your thoughts about Armstrong?
I don't agree with my fellow Alex on that one. I'm sorry. If you look at the last few games, we've only scored 1 goal, as Jacob said before, and that was a long-range effort from Brereton, who's shown absolutely no signs prior to that of scoring in any game that means anything. So I think it would be extremely harsh to pick Armstrong out as the player to maybe give a rest to. I think Armstrong always provides that chance of scoring that 25-yarder that he did on more than one occasion last season when we won games by tight margins. And so I'd always have Armstrong on the pitch if he's fit. I just think that pace that he has isn't really replicated by any other striker we have. You know, who do you replace him with? Gallagher? I don't think Gallagher has the same pace and just really the same goal-scoring ability that Armstrong does. And so, in my opinion, it would be foolish to rest Armstrong. I think he's our best striker.
Yeah. And Jacob, are you in agreement with Alex there? Armstrong, you know, regardless of what's going on in recent games, is a starter for us?
Most definitely. I mean, he has been poor the past few games. No one can deny he really looked like, especially in the Notts Forest and the Cardiff game. I couldn't name any chances he had, really. But I know, obviously, he missed the penalty and the chip against Ben Foster, but he was superb. And it's not only that, but like Alex was just saying, who do you put there? I mean, I wouldn't trust Gallagher or Brereton to be there. Brereton's been really, really good on the left wing, so I think it'd be silly to put him down the centre. And having Gallagher up front, it doesn't inspire me at all. It's as soon as we put Gallagher on the pitch, it's just hoof ball up to him, and it's horrible to watch, and it doesn't work because you're having Lenny Am punting the ball up, and 9 times out of 10 it doesn't go to the intended target. So Armstrong's going to have to play, and I think then obviously when Dak's back, it's a question of whether, if Armstrong's still in poor form, whether Dak goes there and plays a false 9, or whether Dak slots into where Rothwell was playing.
Yeah. And Joe, we've had a comment from Paul Smith, just to build on the Gallagher stuff here. Gallagher looking a bit wayward and sidelined recently. Does he have a future with us?
Ooh. God, that's a big question. I think he does. Whether it'll be a successful one, I don't know. But you don't spend £5 or £6 million on a footballer and then just give up on him after 2 seasons. Mowbray bought him. Mowbray obviously sees something in him, so he'll play. He'll play often this year, and people are going to have to cope with it because they obviously believe in him. And let's not forget that, you know, Sam Gallagher scored a hell of a lot of goals at youth level and has struggled at senior level, sure, but so did Ivan Toney. Struggled for Wigan, struggled for Newcastle, gone back down to League One, found a bit of confidence. You'd probably get over 20 million for him now, and he'd play in the Premier League. So players progress at different rates, and if he learns to jump and head a football and becomes a target man striker and works properly, you never know. There's no way he just isn't a part of the plans. He will play this year, and even if people don't like it, he will. It's just the way it is. And on Armstrong, really quickly, we're playing Coventry today, and it's his former team. He'll score, and he has to play. It's his former side. You can't not play him, in my opinion.
Sure. And Alex, just to build on Gallagher, do you think we would be having this type of conversation had we not spent £5 million on him? If we'd spent, say, £1 million or less, would we be potentially thinking about a loan move out or indeed no future?
I think that's undoubtedly true. And I think you could probably say similar to Brereton prior to the lockdown. I always try and view players through the prism of imagining if they were a youngster coming through the academy and how we would treat them then, rather than how much money we bought them for.
Yeah.
I think if Brereton had come through the academy, I think we'd have sent him out on loan last season. But because of the finances involved in the deal, and I think the necessity to, how do I put this diplomatically, show the Venkies that the money hasn't gone to waste, dictates that these players are involved in the 18, the match day 18. So I can understand the politics behind it, definitely. I don't really have any questions about that because I don't think Mowbray has any other option. I think my biggest gripe is with Sam Gallagher in particular is when he's played on the right wing. I mean, that is just, I don't think you could speak to any fan that can give me a good reason tactically why that is his best position and how it helps the team function in a better way with him at right wing. It just doesn't work for me. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration creeps in with Gallagher, is I think fans often associate him with the decision to play him in his incorrect position for me. I think as a secondary option, backing up Armstrong to come on late in games and maybe get a header from a set piece late on, I think he's a good option to have. But as a £5 million player, he hasn't really shown that he's worth that money yet in his Rovers career, but the fee that we've paid dictates his involvement.
Yeah. Just picking up a comment which was quite a while back. Isaac McCallion asked for an opinion on Ainsley Pears. So what I'll say to you, Isaac, if you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do subscribe, because we had a transfer special on Ainsley Pears. We spoke to Stephen Jackson, a Middlesbrough fan, so you'll be able to get all of the lowdown on Ainsley Pears if you give that video a watch. Before we go through predictions from everybody, just looking at the time, we will just address one final question here from Ronan Hart. Why do you guys think Rovers have been so inconsistent so far? Started like a team Premiership bound, but last 2 games shows Rovers have had some serious weaknesses. Jacob, what do you think the reason for that is?
I mean, like we mentioned, Wickham and Derby, very poor form when we played them. But that doesn't take away from the fact we absolutely smacked them. And we, like he's mentioned, Ronan, we were playing like a Premiership side in those games. And I mean, the Wickham game in particular, that's a game I could have seen us losing last year, just like we did to Luton. The last few games, like it's been mentioned as well, we've had the possession. Especially the 2 games at Ewood, both teams just sat behind the ball all game, and it was so frustrating to watch. And they both came for a draw, in my opinion. Obviously, Watford, we had the ball, they just took their chances, and Ben Foster was in some really good form that night and was brilliant, faultless. But inconsistency is just Rovers, isn't it, unfortunately? So hopefully we can get a win today and we can start hitting some consistency, but we'll have to see, won't we?
We will. And Joe, just as a final comment on that one, why do you think we've not found that consistency yet?
I think it depends on how you're defining consistency, really. I think if you look at us since 2018 to now, I think we're completely consistent with exactly how we play. The recent 4 matches is Rovers in a nutshell. Win 4-0, get a draw, lose 1 fairly, and then lose 1 unfairly, and we'll probably win today. And then, that's the way we are. So inconsistent. I don't think this season we've been particularly inconsistent in compared to how we are in general. I think the hope that we would suddenly become a 1-0 every week consistent side, like the Middlesbrough of the past, or a Watford, or a team that can keep clean sheets every week and nick a goal and just coast, really. It's just us. I think if we were 3-0 up in the 70th minute today, I wouldn't relax. And I don't think anybody would, because that's what we're like. And anything can happen. And we can take a free kick in the 90th minute at Leeds and go 2-1 up and somehow still lose the game. And that's Rovers in general. So I don't think we've been inconsistent, really, for what we're like.
Yeah.
No, that was a bad memory from Boxing Day.
So we're going to end the stream very, very shortly. So we'll just finish off by looking at all of the predictions that we've had in the comments box. And Daniel Woods is the first prediction that we can see there. Coventry 1, Rovers 5, 2 for Armstrong, 2 for Elliott, 1 for Barry Douglas. I love your optimism, Daniel. And if that happens, then we're going to be ecstatic. Paul Smith, 3-1, Rovers win. And then I think it's Ben Smith. Yep, Blackburn win, 3-1. Sam Wright, Rovers 5-2. There's a lot of goal predictions in these ones. And then Lachlan Kearney, 3-1. Would love it if Ben Brereton could bag another, but I'm going to say Armstrong 2 and an own goal. So we will finish then by going round our panel here just to see what we all think. So, Jacob, I will start with you as our debutant. What's your score prediction?
Similar to what most of the people have said, 3-1 in my opinion. New backline pretty much. The only one that's in there from the previous games, obviously Lenihan, and Kaminsky's retained his place. So I do think we'll concede a goal today. Obviously Douglas, Williams and Rankin Costello, they all haven't played together. So no, I do think we'll concede a goal, but after the last couple of performances, I think we deserve some goals, and if we play like we did against Watford, we should get some goals, because obviously they don't have a keeper in the net of the calibre of Ben Foster. So yeah, 3-1 in my opinion. Yep.
Alex, where are you?
After listening to all those comments, I think it's destined to be a 0-0 now, isn't it? In the Rovers Chat Writers Predictor League, I do caveat this by saying I am bottom of the league. So don't listen to me for predictions. I am last. I predicted one apiece. So it probably won't be that. So I'll go with that.
Okay, 1-1 draw. Joe?
Well, I'll caveat mine by I'm joint top of the predictions league. So I've gone 2-1 Rovers today. I'm not even going to attempt at goal scorers. I'd love for Ben Brereton to get his second in 2 games, but I don't know. We'll see. 2-1's my guess.
I've gone 2-1 Rovers as well as a prediction. There's just something about Coventry's optimism which makes me think they're going to come at us a little bit, and I just think we might get a little bit of joy with that. I could see us maybe countering a bit, and I do like the look of the midfield. The more I think about it, actually, I think it's quite solid. So 2-1, I'm feeling fairly optimistic there. We've had one more prediction from Dizzy Thumbs. He's also saying 2-1 Rovers. So thank you all for joining us on this pre-match stream. We've got, 12 minutes to go and buy your iFollow pass if you are me. If you've already bought it, then you can go and crack open a beer or a cup of tea or whatever your tipple is. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Rovers Chat YouTube channel, and of course follow us on Twitter, Rovers_chat on Twitter, and look out for a post-match reaction stream later on, a bit similar to what we did in the week against Watford. I believe it's all 4 of us again, who you'll get to see our lovely faces in about 2 hours or so time. So hopefully it's a positive result. Hopefully we're all smiling and not like we were on Wednesday. But no, we will finish there. Joe, thank you, mate.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jacob.
No worries. Thank you for a decent debut, Alex. I hope.
Yes, very good. I think you were our Barry Douglas. Lots of nice set piece deliveries in there, so thank you. And Alex, thank you, mate.
Thank you, Ryan, for hosting, and I think we'll see you all in 2 or 3 hours. Let's hope we've got good news.
Indeed. Thanks, Rovers fans. We will end it there. Thank you.
The Rovers Chat YouTube channel is proudly sponsored by 6yardsout.com. They've got retro football from every era with phone cases and much more. They also have plenty of Rovers goods, apparel with the famous 94-95 season and this season's kit. Check them out using the link in the description below.